I need to tell you all that we are on standby like everyone else, waiting for the announcement. And the moment there is any sign of it, we will, of course, go live to Wellington for it. We're joined on the phone now by Green Party leader, James Shaw. James, are you there?
I am. How are you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, well, good. And bewildered. And trying to read the tea leaves, and basically there's a tea bag in my cup. How are you? Have you a clue what's going on?
Well, we're in a holding pattern, John, as we have been for a few days now. We've had a series of evenings made available for us to make the conference call with our delegates. I think that's been fairly widely advertised.
Yeah. Is that taking place tonight? Is that conference call still taking place?
That's the current plan, yeah.
Okay, and one would, and once again, this is just speculation, so please disabuse me of any conclusions I'm drawing that aren't simply fact. You would only have that discussion if you have something to discuss, right, in terms of a substantive kind of proposal, an agreement to respond to.
So look, if it doesn't happen tonight, then it doesn't happen tonight,
right,
but that's been our position all along. So we're just holding, for that possibility.
Can I ask you about seats in Cabinet? Would you want a Cabinet seat, not outside but inside Cabinet?
John, I'm sorry, you can ask all you like, but I really feel for the media who are really stuck with this, but, I can't talk about the content of the negotiations or the agreements that are emerging.
No, absolutely, and I think many people will feel that's entirely appropriate. A government is being formed here. There is speculation coming out of the NBR, Rob Hosking, suggesting that New Zealand First is striking a really high demand in terms of the number of inside cabinet seats they want. Would there be a sense of grievance from the Green Party, hypothetically, if New Zealand First were inside cabinet and the Greens were outside?
No, I can't really comment on the agreements between other political parties, but we're kind of ready to go with ours if the need arises.
It's a funny old time, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's a funny old time, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I've said this a number of times over the course of the last week. If you look at other governments in, say, Northern Europe, who've got longer histories of multi-party
weeks
democracy
and months.
Than we do, then it's actually quite normal. But in New Zealand's history, it's not. We're fairly new to this, and so, I think it is evolving. But I'm, to be honest with you, pretty relaxed about the time frame.
What do you think, in terms of the things you can most cohesively and logically work with New Zealand First and Labour on, what are the key areas? In other words, where is the natural fit?
Well, on election night, once the results were out, I got up and I made a speech saying that I felt that a majority of New Zealanders had voted for change and not for the status quo, and that there were areas of commonality between New Zealand First and the Greens and Labour, and that in a multi-party democracy, in a multi-party government, that the obligation is on parties to look for the areas that you've got in common rather than to look for the areas where you're further apart. And so what I would say is that any government has to represent those areas of commonality. And I felt that there were sufficient ones there to make it work.
And what are the striking areas of commonality for you? What are the ones that really now spring to mind?
Well, on election night, I made a couple of comments about the fact that all three of our parties have committed to, passing the Zero Carbon Act on climate change and setting up an independent climate commission. All three of our parties have been sceptical about the investor-state dispute settlement mechanisms that are contained in trade agreements like the TPPA, and we're concerned about that. And all three of our parties have got a real commitment to the regions and into kind of local economic development.
Thanks, James. We really appreciate it. When did you last talk to Winston Peters?
Not for a while. Yeah.
You and me both. James Shaw, leader of the Green Party, thank you. We really appreciate you joining us in those circumstances. So, ladies and gentlemen, we wait and we wait